Fact-checked. Wow! And yes, the Trump supporter and his loudest ally are right here in this video, in this very moment, standing across from me. And what happened next is exactly why people can't stop replaying this clip. You can hear the confidence in his voice at first. You can see it in the way his chin lifts, in the way he leans forward just a bit like he already won. He comes in thinking this is going to be easy. He thinks I'm just another voice he can talk over, another woman he can dismiss, another opponent he can reduce to a soundbite. I let him speak. I let him get comfortable, because when someone thinks they're winning, that's when they expose the most. He says things like, "Everyone knows this," and "the facts are on our side." Those phrases always make me smile inside, because the people who lean on "everyone knows" are usually the ones who did the least knowing. He lists numbers, dates, claims that sound official, and the crowd, some of them nodding, some of them unsure, some just enjoying the spectacle. I could see the ally behind him watching me like I was the show. They were waiting for me to slip. Here's the part nobody expected. I wasn't preparing a comeback. I wasn't planning a clever insult. I was doing something much more dangerous. I was staying quiet. I was listening. And in that silence, I was already building the response that would change the energy in the room. Because when you really know your facts, you don't rush. When you've spent your nights reading reports nobody else bothered to open, when you have footnotes living in your head, when you've seen the reality behind the headlines, you don't need to raise your voice. You just need to speak once clearly. He finishes his claim, and there's that tiny pause, that space where everyone is waiting for me to react. That space is powerful. That's where the truth walks in. "Let me ask you something," I begin. "Why is it that every time you say facts, you never mention the full context? Why do you start the story in the middle like the first chapter never existed?" I could see him blink, just once, small, but enough to tell me he was no longer as comfortable. I start with just one piece of information, not an attack, not a personal shot, just a verifiable, documented, undeniable fact. And I say it slowly. I make sure each word lands. The sound in the room shifts. You could feel the air getting heavier. People stop moving. Phones stop scrolling. Even his ally freezes, like their brain is trying to recalculate. Because when facts touch fantasy, fantasy always gets quiet first. You see, the story he told was designed to make people angry. Mine was designed to make people think. And thinking is much harder to fight. I bring in the timeline, the real timeline, not the one floating around in memes or half-quoted speeches, but the one written in records, bills, votes, transcripts. I connect the dots for them, gently, so even the ones who don't want to believe it can't deny the line is straight. Halfway through, I ask him another question, not to trap him, but to give him a chance, a kind of courtroom courtesy. "Can you show me the source of your numbers?" Not a video, not a comment, a real source. There it is again, that pause. The loudest people are rarely the most prepared. He fumbles. He looks to his ally. His ally shrugs. There's a stiffness now. The crowd feels it too, even if they can't explain why. And I keep going, because I'm not finished. I bring up the report he never read. I mention the line he conveniently left out. I remind him that when you crop out the uncomfortable parts, you're not telling the truth. You're editing a story to fit your fear. And then I say the line that made the energy crack in half. Reality doesn't need your permission to exist. It just exists. Silence. Real silence. Not the awkward kind from a bad joke. The kind that hits your ears, that fills the room, that makes you notice your own heartbeat. Someone coughs in the back. A chair creaks, but no one speaks. Not him, not his ally, not the audience that just realized they'd been watching two different worlds collide. Now let me take you even deeper, because what you don't see on the surface is the pressure in that moment. People think moments like these are spontaneous. They aren't. They're built from years of studying, from sitting in hearings nobody watches, from listening to people who are never given a microphone. They're built from being underestimated so many times that you eventually learn how to turn doubt into power. I'm thinking of all the times they expected me to be quiet, all the times they thought I'd sit down because the room was too big, the voices too loud, the opposition too strong. And yet, here I am, standing in front of a man who thought I was going to be an easy target. He tries one more time, a weak pushback, something vague, something emotional instead of factual. That's when I know I have him, not as a person, but as a narrative, because narratives collapse when truth steps in the light. So I do something else no one expected. I thank him. Yes, I thank him for bringing the conversation up, for giving me the chance to clarify, for letting me show the difference between noise and information. And the irony is so thick you could cut it, because the crowd that might have been on his side at the start now sees the contrast. They feel it. That's the moment when people start questioning not just him, but every claim they've been passively accepting. Here comes another detail nobody warned you about. The ally starts to avoid eye contact. They glance away, then down, then anywhere that isn't me. Body language doesn't lie. And the camera catches it, clear as day. That's why this moment is so powerful on replay. You don't need commentary. You see the truth unfolding in real time. I continue, but I slow down. I soften my tone, because the message isn't about humiliation, it's about awareness. I explain that being wrong isn't the enemy. Refusing to learn is. And in that sentence, you can see some people in the audience exhale. They weren't just watching a confrontation anymore, they were witnessing a lesson. I walk them through the difference between a talking point and a fact, between a slogan and a statistic, between a belief and a verified reality. And each sentence peels back another layer of the illusion he walked in with. This is where reality versus fantasy becomes painfully clear. Fantasy is loud, it's decorated, it comes with cheering crowds and catchy chants. But reality is stubborn. It doesn't care how you feel about it or how many times you repeat the opposite. It sits there, unbothered, waiting for someone brave enough to point at it and say, "Look." And then I do it. I say the full truth. No more hints, no more gentle steps. Just a clean, sharp, undeniable statement that ties everything together. The claim he started with is not only misleading, it is provably false. You can almost hear the collective "oh" in the room, that shocked breath people take when they realize they've just seen something significant. The ones who supported him feel embarrassed. The ones who doubted him feel validated. And the ones who were on the fence, they just woke up. Here's the optional twist you didn't see coming. The data he thought supported him actually proves the opposite when viewed in full. Same source, same numbers, different truth. And that's when his expression tells the whole story. Not anger, not even sadness, just realization. Nadie lo esperaba. La verdad sale a la luz. We stand there for a second longer than usual. The camera doesn't cut. The silence stays. And that silence is louder than any argument he spoke earlier. Because sometimes the most powerful sound is the absence of lies. As the moment winds down, I don't gloat. I don't celebrate. I simply remind everyone listening that democracy only works when people are willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of truth. That knowledge isn't owned by one party, one person, one side. It belongs to those who are brave enough to search for it, to face it, to speak it, even when the room turns cold. And as I step back, as the camera fades, as the crowd slowly finds its voice again, you can feel something has changed. Not just for him, not just for his ally, but for everyone who witnessed that exchange. They didn't just see a supporter get fact-checked. They saw what happens when confidence meets preparation, when volume meets clarity, when fantasy collides with reality. And if there's one thing I want you to remember from this moment, it's this. The truth doesn't always shout, but when it speaks, everything else falls silent.